Have you ever imagined having to choose between your dreams and those you love? Park Yoon-bin faced this decision, and her story will move and inspire you. Watch until the end and discover how true love can transform lives. And you, what would you do in her place? Leave your comment. Park Yoon-bin was 20 years old when her life turned upside down. An only child of loving parents, she grew up in a peaceful home full of affection and dreams. Her parents, who owned a small restaurant, always encouraged her to study and aim for a bright future. Park Yoon-bin dreamed of becoming a successful businesswoman, but everything changed when her parents decided to adopt 4 more children. First came Ji-ah, an 11-year-old girl who had lost her parents in a fire and had no one else to care for her. Then Min-jun, an 8-year-old boy who had lived in an orphanage since birth because his mother didn't know who his father was and had rejected him from day one. Next was Soo-ah, a sweet and shy 7-year-old girl who needed a home. She had suffered abuse at home and decided to live on the streets to escape the pain. Her mother, upon seeing the girl in danger, always rummaging through the restaurant's trash for food scraps, didn't think twice. She talked to her husband, who immediately agreed to adopt her. Finally, a 2-year-old baby was left on their doorstep on a cold winter night, with just a note: "Please take care of him." At first, Park Yoon-bin felt overwhelmed. Suddenly, she was no longer the only child. Now she had to share her parents' attention with 4 children who needed love and care. But little by little, she grew attached to them. Ji-ah became like a younger sister. Min-jun always made her laugh with his mischief. Soo-ah loved helping her in the kitchen, and the baby, whom she named Hanul, meaning sky, brought a special light into the house. However, tragedy struck the family like a bolt of lightning in a clear sky. On a cold, cloudy morning, Park Yoon-bin's parents left early to buy fresh supplies for the family restaurant. It was a routine trip, but that morning would be marked by a tragedy that would change their lives forever. While driving on the road, a truck lost control on a curve and crashed head-on into their car. The impact was fatal. The news came as a devastating blow. Park Yoon-bin, at 20 years old, had to go to the hospital to identify their bodies. The silence in the car on the way back home was heavy. The children, still young, didn't fully understand what had happened. Ji-ah, 11 years old, cried quietly, while Min-jun, 8, kept asking when their parents would come back. Soo-ah, 7, clung to her teddy bear, and Hanul, the baby, babbled incomprehensible words as if he could feel the pain in the air. The house, once filled with laughter and life, now felt empty. The restaurant, which was the family's livelihood, remained closed for weeks. Park Yoon-bin looked at the photos of her parents on the wall and felt an immense emptiness. The pain was overwhelming, but she knew she had to be strong. The children depended on her, and in that moment, she vowed to do everything she could to keep them together, even if the path ahead was uncertain and full of challenges. A car accident took the lives of her parents, leaving Park Yoon-bin alone to care for her 4 siblings. Suddenly, she found herself in the role of mother, sister, and provider, all at once. Bills piled up, money ran short, and the weight of responsibility almost made her give up. Park Yeon-bin had a golden opportunity, a job at a big company in Seoul that could change her life. But it would mean leaving the children behind, as she wouldn't be able to take them with her. The night she announced her decision, the children begged her. "Park Yoon-bin, please don't leave us," cried Jia, holding her hand. "I promise I'll behave and help more," said Min-jun, tears streaming down his face. Soo-ah, quiet and shy, just hugged her legs, while Hanul, sitting on the floor, reached out his little arms to her, babbling, "Nuna, stay." Park Yoon-bin's heart broke. How could she abandon them? She decided to stay, but reality was harsh. The electricity was cut off for unpaid bills, the food cupboard was nearly empty, and Hanul got sick, with no money to buy medicine. Park Yunbin started selling homemade cakes at the market, but the money wasn't enough. The nights were long and lonely, and she often cried in secret, wondering if she could keep going. It was on one of those difficult days that she met Jun-ho. He showed up at her cake stand with a kind smile and a calm presence. He always bought 2 cakes and left extra money as a tip. Jun-ho said he was a poor student, but his presence was comforting. He started visiting her every day, offering words of encouragement and helping with small tasks. He saw her as a simple, hard-working girl, and little by little she opened up to him about her struggles, treating him like a friend and a way to vent. What Park Yunbin didn't know was that Jun-ho was actually the heir to one of the largest fortunes in Korea. He had disguised himself to understand the struggles of ordinary people, and upon meeting Park Yunbin, he was captivated by her strength and courage. He began helping her discreetly, paying bills anonymously, and making sure the family never lacked the essentials. Meanwhile, Jun-ho's mother, a cold and calculating woman, wanted him to marry the heiress of another wealthy family to unite their fortunes. But Jun-ho didn't want a life of appearances. He wanted a woman who loved him for who he was, not for his money. And in Park Yunbin, he found that person. The first truly emotional moment between them happened on a rainy night. The electricity had been cut off again, and Park Yunbin was desperate, trying to calm Hanul, who had a fever. Jun-ho showed up at the door with medicine and groceries. He helped light candles, took care of the children, and that night they talked for hours. Park Yunbin shared her dreams, her fears, and her struggle to keep the family together. Jun-ho, on the other hand, didn't share his own inner battles about the pressure of being an heir and his desire to live an authentic life. Little by little, the two grew closer. Jun-ho continued to help Park Yunbin, but always discreetly, so as not to hurt her pride. He encouraged her to expand her cake business, and soon she started receiving orders from all over the city. The children also grew attached to him, calling him Hyung, Big Brother. However, Jun-ho's mother hired a detective because she wanted to know what her son was doing every afternoon. Jun-ho's mother arrived in a luxurious car, wearing an impeccable suit and a cold expression. She entered Park Yunbin's humble home without ceremony, sitting at the table as if it were a throne. "You must be Park Yunbin," the woman said, placing a thick envelope on the table. "Here's enough money for you and these kids to start a new life in another city. Leave my son alone." Park Yunbin looked at the envelope, then at the woman, and felt a mix of sadness and anger. "He never told me who he really was," she said, her voice trembling. "I knew him as an ordinary man, not as a wealthy heir." The woman frowned. "That doesn't matter. He has responsibilities, a future that doesn't include you. Take the money and disappear." Park Yunbin lifted her head, her eyes shining with determination. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I won't accept your money. This house is where I grew up and where I'm raising my siblings. I won't abandon my family or my life because of your wealth. If Jun-ho wants to stay, that's his decision, not yours." Jun-ho's mother was silent for a moment, surprised by the young woman's strength. Without another word, she stood up and left. She looked at the envelope, then at the woman, and felt a mix of sadness and anger. "He never told me who he really was," she said, her voice trembling. "I knew him as an ordinary man, not as a wealthy heir." The woman frowned. "That doesn't matter. He has responsibilities, a future that doesn't include you. Take the money and disappear." Park Yunbin lifted her head, her eyes shining with determination. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I won't accept your money. This house is where I grew up and where I'm raising my siblings. I won't abandon my family or my life because of your wealth. If Junho wants to stay, that's his decision, not yours." Junho's mother was silent for a moment, surprised by the young woman's strength. Without another word, she stood up and left. Junho walked into the family mansion with steady steps but a racing heart. His mother was in the living room, sitting in an elegant armchair, flipping through a magazine. He took a deep breath before speaking. "Mom, we need to talk," he said, with a seriousness that made her look up. "What happened, Junho?" she asked, closing the magazine and giving him her full attention. "I found out that you went to Yunbin's house and offered her money to disappear from my life," he began, his voice firm but filled with emotion. "She refused, not because she doesn't need it, but because she has values that no amount of money can buy. She grew up in that house, raised her siblings there, and she won't abandon everything because of your wealth." Junho's mother frowned, trying to interrupt, but he continued, "I've rented a small apartment near her. I got a job and will live on what I earn. I've decided to give up the family fortune, Mom. I don't want a life of appearances. I want a real life with the person I love." His mother was shocked, her eyes wide. "Are you crazy? Giving up everything for that girl? You're throwing your future away." Junho looked at her calmly but with determination. "My future is with her, Mom. Yunbin and the kids have shown me what really matters in life. If you can't accept that, I'm sorry, but I won't change my mind." He took a step back, ready to leave. "I hope one day you'll understand that love is worth more than any fortune." Before she could respond, Junho turned and walked out of the room, leaving his mother sitting still, trying to process his words. She looked at her empty hands and, for the first time, wondered if all the money she had accumulated was worth losing the love of her only son. On a sunny Sunday, Park Yunbin and Junho were at the park with the kids. Jia was flying a colorful kite, while Minjun ran after it, laughing. Sua, sitting on Yunbin's lap, was making a flower crown for Junho, who placed it on his head with a silly smile. Hanul, in his stroller, babbled happily, clapping his little hands. "You're my family now," Junho said, hugging Yunbin. "And you're our hero," she replied, smiling. The kids shouted, "Yay, Hyung!" as they ran toward him, filling the park with laughter and love. A few weeks later, Junho's mother showed up at Park Yunbin's house again. This time, though, her expression wasn't cold but hesitant. She knocked on the door and was greeted by Park Yunbin, who invited her in, despite the tension in the air. "I came to talk to you." "And Junho?" the woman said, sitting at the table with a more humble posture than before. Junho walked into the room, surprised to see his mother there. "Mom? What are you doing here?" She took a deep breath as if fighting years of pride and expectations. "I came because I realized I was about to lose you, my son. And not because of money or wealth, but because I was blind to what really matters." Park Yunbin and Junho exchanged confused looks, but his mother continued. "I always thought success was about maintaining our wealth and status, but I saw that you're happier here with her and these kids than you ever were in our mansion. And that made me think." She looked at Park Yunbin, her eyes now softer. "I was wrong to try to push you away. I didn't understand what he saw in your family, but now I do. You have something no money can buy: love, loyalty, and unity." Junho smiled, emotional. "Mom, does this mean you accept Park Yunbin and the kids?" She nodded slowly, a small smile forming on her lips. "Yes, I want to get to know my new family. If you love them, then they're part of me too." Park Yunbin, with tears in her eyes, reached out to Junho's mother. "Thank you for giving us a chance. I promise I'll take care of your son, and these kids will bring joy to your life too." Junho's mother held Park Yunbin's hand, and in that moment a new connection was formed. She looked at the kids, who were curiously watching from the doorway, and said, "Come here, kids. I'm your grandma now." Minjun was the first to run to her, followed by Jia and Sua, while Hanul babbled happily in Park Yunbin's arms. Junho looked at his mother and Park Yunbin, feeling that, finally, his family was complete. And so, Junho's mother learned that the true value of life isn't in money, but in the love we share with those around us. And she discovered that, by opening her heart, she gained not just a daughter-in-law, but an entire family full of light and hope. What about you? Have you ever faced a challenge that seemed impossible, but found the strength to overcome it? Share your story in the comments and inspire others to never give up on their dreams. This story is for everyone who believes in the power of love and family. If it touched your heart, share it with someone who needs inspiration today.